This was interesting. For those who were watching like a few minutes ago, they saw me like, no, because what happened, I needed to put it on local recording, and every time I tapped it, it was like it went off and then it went on. And well, here I am again, and I didn't think I was able to go live again. I thought it was going to be a studio recording. So I was like, oh my God, how's this working? But persistence pays off. So here I am. And well, if correct, I'm going live. That's what it says in the top corner. So happy to be here again. And why especially today? Because it's been over a year since I first started posting consistently every day on social media, specifically on Instagram. Now, I'll be totally honest, every now and then I do it a few hours later, but on average, there's at least one post or multiple posts to be found on there. But normally my intention is to post something every day. Last week, or better said, this last week, at some point something weird happened. I was so involved with writing my training and recording my training at the moment, and working with what I had recorded earlier on during my group coaching training, that I was like, I've sent everything to the participants, and I edited it all. I put some stuff on YouTube. So what I usually do when it comes to the group recordings is there are the very personal parts that I send to the ones who have participated and shared that part. And then the part where you cannot see anyone at all, that's the group training part. And then, of course, there's also the meditation part, which also is a separate thing. And in this case, I also included a bit of an explanation. Well, it was like 3 or 4 minutes about how meditation works best. So I try to use everything I record to its maximum use, I guess. And well, when we talk about consistency and clarity, well, first of all, most of you probably know that this month for me is the month of clarity. So I decided that December is the month to go do it. So every day I get something out there which is useful when it comes to clarity. So I've written a number of posts which are linked to the basic tools when it comes to clarity. And there's also something which is getting out there almost, which is about combining all of it. And actually, I did talk about that in my group coaching training last Wednesday. It used to be Tuesday, but I decided to move it to Wednesdays. Just easier that way. Now, getting back to the whole consistency thing. This week, I did a number of things. And one of the things that I did was I went through my high performance planners. Now, those who are wondering, what is a high performance planner? It's something from Brendon Burchard. It's a 8-week planner, and it's got a monthly overview, it's got weekly overview, and every day you can write in there what it is that you want to write about, or better said, what it is you want to do. And at the end of the day, you write down what you actually have done. Well, it's also literally a planner. So there's a schedule. I think it starts at 6 and it ends at about 8, which of course doesn't line up with my time. So I always have to change it a little bit. It talks about reaching out to people and other stuff. And I've got a number of those dating back to 2020, probably earlier, I'm not entirely sure, when he decided to start selling those. But I was one of the first, well, it was the first batch I actually got them And I stopped using them when he got the app. So there's the growth app, and you can actually put it in there. And that's somehow how I stopped. So cleaning up this entire space, I also went through my notebooks, and I actually got the first and the last one of the bunch. And well, the one finished actually with January 2021. And that was the last day that my mom was still alive. So that was on there. So my mom fell on the floor, or she went down to lie down on the floor. I'm not sure what went on in her mind, because she left what she used for support next to the door. And then she went to the chair, took the pillow and just pulled it under her head. And my brother never saw it on the cameras he installed. I never went there. Remember, it was still COVID. And the next day, the people who were supposed to take care of her were late. And she just had passed on. And I myself, I was so busy that Sunday, and I was so stressed out that I was like, well, I can go there or I cannot go there. But that Monday morning, I had to take a client to the Salvation Army. And by the time I was there, I got all these text messages and phone calls. And that's when I learned, well, actually afterwards, when I went to the car, that my mom had passed on. And we had totally missed it. Well, I didn't miss it because everything in me screamed that I needed to go there. And it took me a while, but then I realized it's a good thing that I didn't go, because I wouldn't have taken her wish. Well, her wish was to die at home, and I would have called the doctors and they would have taken her to the hospital. So it's a good thing that I wasn't there. So that was one very specific date I saw. And then the other planner, to my surprise, started July 2020. And at the end of June, one of my clients, he was very important to me, she decided to opt out. And well, that really did something with me. Being a therapist and a coach, losing someone is really hard. Even though there were signs that I could see it coming, the ever ongoing doubt, it was still hard. And well, I posted something on Instagram actually a few times. So as a result, I started binge watching Chicago Fire. And then there was, of course, the spin-off, Chicago PD. So I started watching that one. And that's how I got in contact with, some of you might know, which is Cheeky Joe. She has a fan page of the lead actor of Chicago PD, Jason Begay. And together we went to Chicago. And I have to say, I love the city. Now, how's this relevant? Whenever I went to the US, and specifically when I had been in Chicago, I would do this clarity challenge. So the first one was 2022. When I went there with Cheeky Joe, we saw the actors perform, which was really cool. We got some pictures with some of the actors. And well, when she recently posted how she took a picture of Jason, well, we both took several pictures of the guy, and not just of Jason, but also the other ones, like Paddy, for instance, and Leroy's. Great guys, by the way. She posted that, and I posted it in my story saying that this was all part of the whole clarity timeline. So the first clarity challenge was actually done when we got back. Then in 2023, we went there again. This time with Call Me Anything, her daughter. I did another clarity challenge. And this year I got back and I went there on my own. And I wanted to do another clarity challenge. And it took me a few days. a few months until I actually did it. So I returned on October, and I was like, I want to do it before Black Friday, or at least announce it on Black Friday. And that's what I actually did. I announced it on Black Friday, so people were able to buy it for discounts and some extra perks during Black Friday weekend, which was last week. But the good news, it is still out there, just with a little less perks. But if you want to do something for yourself every day of December, and of course afterwards, because you can still use it, then be sure to sign up. The link is somewhere here in the description. Now, why did I start to write about clarity back then when I had been to Chicago and to the US? Well, first of all, I always get training from Brendon Burchard, except for no, that's not true. No, I always get training from Brendon Burchard. I went there prior to COVID, and then when he started giving training again after COVID, that's when I went to see him again. So the first time was in 2022, if I can remember correctly. And traveling was a way to see how things could be instead of how they were, and especially sharing a room with Cheeky Joe. We had a sort of system, things she did and things that I did, and we worked together pretty well. And that was nice. It also showed me that what has happened as the result of the things I just shared in 2020 and 2021, but also prior to it. So tripping on the brick, twisting my ankle, and not being able to stand on my left ankle anymore. It all had its effects. And take into consideration that the healthcare insurance didn't pay for the sessions anymore, then I had to reinvent myself. So first, I couldn't do what I wanted to do anymore. And on top of that, I had to reinvent myself. Then one of my clients passed on, and it was in a time that actually, because that was ongoing, that year after, so many of my clients were on that verge of opting out. And they didn't see any perspective. Fortunately for me, I did help the others achieve to see perspective again. So I'm very proud of that part. But losing one is never easy. So hence why I needed to heal. Let's put it that way. I needed to heal physically, of course. And I also needed to heal mentally and emotionally. So when my mom passed on, which was during the time that I was so busy making sure that the other ones would be okay. And as for the other ones, part of those clients were actually clients I help out locally. And that means that I actually do some stuff hands-on, like calling the municipality, the people in charge of housing, doctors, police officers, whatever is needed in order to get them what it is they need. And of course, talking to them as well. So a lot of people, they are not capable of speaking up and speaking out. So what do I mean by that? They know they need help, but they don't believe they can get the help anymore. They believe it's useless. And the moment they do, there's no perspective anymore. So that's why it's so important to be able to be their voice and share with them like, hey, but you are worth something and we are going to make this happen. And at this moment, I'm still helping out a few of those clients locally. And I have to say, it's really rewarding to see that things are changing for them, that life is getting better. It's not always easy. As a matter of fact, it's hardly ever easy. But to see the change, that someone believes in them well, that's priceless. That's really priceless. So getting back to the whole clarity and consistency thing, I was consistent in getting my voice out there. I was absolutely consistent in making sure that my clients were getting heard, whether it was people who were doing stuff online. So a number of them were actually people who got scammed. And well, doing stuff was Cheeky Joe, who, like I said, runs the Jason Begay UK fan page. There were a lot of people who were, well, a lot of scammers reached out to CPD fans, and not just CPD fans also. You know, whenever it comes to series with famous actors, they know where to find you. They go through the comments and they reach out pretending to be that person. And yes, I did help a number of those clients too. You know, whenever they would come and reach out to me and they would share it, I would be able to help them to see the distinction between the scammer and the real person. But on top of that, why do we let ourselves get involved with someone? Well, first of all, we want something. And second of all, it's nice to actually get the attention. You can easily get hooked on attention. And talking about this, of course, we're not only talking about scammers. I mean, we have this advertisement here on television. It's called Second Love. And whenever I watch it, it's like, does your partner know about this, Second Love? And well, when that partner has no intention to leave their partner, their spouse, and they start looking for someone without telling their partner, well, I think there's something really wrong with it. But unfortunately, it happens a lot. A lot of people want security before they leave their relationship or their marriage. And whereas scammers want something from you, mainly money, the people, when it comes to Second Love, when they're not honest about all of it, well, they're basically betraying their partner, but also the one they are courting, because they make promises they're not going to keep. And that's sad. That's sad. So honesty is so immensely important in all of this. But it's nice to be able to help the people and let them see what actually is going on. And that's the reason why it's so important to speak up and speak out. Because if you don't, then who knows what's going on? And to take this one step further, recently when I was in Florida, I stayed over at a friend's place, and she is the victim of identity theft. And again, the question is, do you dare to speak up about it and speak out? So she did tell me, and we actually said that she was going to come with me on the show. It hasn't happened just yet, but we are planning on doing so. And again, in order to get it resolved, we need help. How do we get help? By speaking up and speaking out. So there's a whole bunch of reasons to talk about speaking up and speaking out. Now, getting back to the clarity and consistency. It was sort of like the place here wasn't the way it used to be before. First of all, I didn't have to receive anyone here. I would go to the clients or I would do stuff online. And let me see if I can, oh, this is good. And second of all, I got all the stuff from my parents when the house got sold. So after my mom passed away, my dad already had passed away. They had this huge house and it had to be sold. Now, fortunately for me, and some may already know this, someone dropped by and she said, you need to change this. Then I reached out to a friend. She said, I'm going to help you. and so much has changed ever since. And it's kind of cool to actually be able to say, okay, it's getting back to where I wanted it to be. So for years, I said this place, which used to be practice, as in I got people here, was supposed to be transformed into a studio. And well, I started it up, and then, well, things went haywire. Like I said, I lost the client. I was busy helping out others. There was a huge struggle with my mom due to physical and mental circumstances. And when I was in Chicago the last time, I went to visit a number of firehouses. So that's actually the result of Chicago Fire. Ever since I went to visit that fire station, which is 51 on the show, I made it an effort to actually see the other fire stations too. So they actually have shirts they sell. They don't earn any profit from it. But there usually is a little story on the back. So there's a logo on there, and well, they have things to share. And it's true. You can go there, you can come in. They're always friendly, willing to talk to you, especially when you say, well, I would like to get a shirt and I would like to hear the stories. And quite often I'm allowed to record the conversations. And in this case, I went to the Backdraft Firehouse. Well, actually, there are two. There's the one where they are on the truck and you see what's going on there. And then there's the one where they actually get out of the fire station and you see the Chinese, what do they call it? It's it's the Chinese area. I'll get back to it, what they call it. And everyone has such an area, in every city where you go there and you get all the Asian food and stuff. And well, that's where I went, which was kind of cool. So I went to both places and then some. But talking to the guy who was at the fire station, which had served for Backdraft, which, yes, was in Chicago. I shared a little something about what had happened to my client, and of course with my mom. Well, I'm not sure if I talked about the things that happened with my mom, but I did talk about the things that happened with my client. And then I said I started binge watching Chicago Fire, and what got to me was the talk about responsibility and how I cannot be held responsible for the choices of others. And he said that really helped me. And then he explained to me that they actually, because they live there like 2 days on and 1 day off, if I say it correctly, they spend more, or just 1 day, full day on and 2 days off. But they spend a lot of time with their colleagues over there, so with their fellow firefighters. So they eat together, they sleep together, they experience stuff together, they fight fires together, and they also go through mental ordeals when things do not work out the way they're supposed to. So he got it. He got what I was talking about, and we talked a lot about it, and it was so immensely healing just talking about it. And well, I hope to go back there next year. It's always nice to go back to Chicago. But that really made an impact on me. I cannot say anything else. And if you combine all of these stories together, then you can see that this is about consistency. And being able to talk to the people and dealing with everything what had happened, well, I can say clarity isn't easy. Regaining clarity isn't easy. And for some people, well, they might never have had clarity at all. Of course, I was always aware that clarity, and that's the basic rule, of course, clarity and clutter go hand in hand. And what they say is when you have clutter in your mind, it shows around you, which is absolutely true. So then they say when you start cleaning up, then your mind starts to clean up. Well, that's a little different. It depends on what's going on. And when we talk about FOMO, fear of missing out, which can result in collecting stuff more and more and more, which of course used to be a norm before we had the internet, before we could actually just buy stuff from abroad. Take, for instance, the model trains. A lot of people would collect model trains, you know, different series, different countries. And, well, lately, the young people, they don't buy model trains anymore. So they used to be a very good investment until they weren't anymore. But a lot of people still have that stuff. So when people would go to places, they would collect memorabilia. I'm one of those people too. Just look at my backpack and you will see all these little furry friends. And of course, this one is also the result of one of my trips. So this is a Chief Rockstar. Chief Rockstar wasn't dressed like this, but only the sneakers were in that way. But Chief Rockstar is a travel buddy. And I made it at the Build-A-Bear workshop at Navy Pier. And, well, I actually went back there again. And I showed them pictures of the things that I've done. And they totally loved it. Now, people are really fond of seeing Chief Rockstar. Why is it? Because Chief Rockstar makes them smile. Now, unfortunately, weather isn't always that good over here. So that's a reason to leave Chief Rockstar at home. But, you know, I do dress Chief Rockstar according to whatever season it is. So we just had St. Nicholas over here. Of course, this is Holland. So then he was dressed as, I'm sorry to say if this sounds wrong, but Black Pete. So no, there was no black on his face, which was supposed to be from the soot in the chimneys. Please note, it was not related to any skin color. But he had a certain outfit, so he got that outfit on. By the way, we do have soot Petes nowadays. So those are people with a smear of black stuff on their faces because they've been down the chimney. Now, apart from that, it's Christmas time, so I know this makes people smile. If I take Chief Rockstar everywhere I go and I put him down, and especially the old elderly people, they are like, oh, this is so cool. So yes, I collect memorabilia. And even when it comes to FOMO, this little guy actually triggered my FOMO. Why? Because I wanted multiple outfits. And it's kind of hard to get those over here. So yes, of course, I can go to Amazon. But the clothes over there are not always the same. Actually, this outfit is from Amazon, except for this hat. I got that from a friend, so that's kind of cool. And, well, here is the bandana. And the bandana was bought at Walmart. So I got a couple of those over there at Walmart. So I'll do this the right way a little bit later. So anyway, talking about all of this, FOMO, fear of missing out, collecting stuff, yes. What I didn't realize, well, actually, I talked about it decades ago when I first started living in my own apartment and then later living together. So my husband and I, we have a similar background. We have an Indonesian background, Dutch Indonesian, which means that when you would go to my parents and still go to his mom's place, his dad is no longer alive, what you will see is, let me see if I can change this. Yes, this is live. And okay, so this one, I think it does something for me. Let me see. I like this better. This needs to be charged. That's how it works. And well, they held all this Asian stuff at their places. And I was like, well, that's not my stuff. And especially when it came to the woodwork and the mask, I didn't like those little ornaments. Anyway, when they passed on, I did get some stuff from the house. Actually, my mom already said so when she was still alive. Please take some stuff with you because, well, it needs to be sorted out. And there's so much here. Well, it took us a year before the house was sold. And then, of course, during the time, we already started to sell some stuff or give it away. And yes, I did take some stuff here too. And the question was, what are the things I want to hold on to and what not? So the first things that I took here, and I still have, were actually the things that I brought over to their place from my travels, whether it was Australia or America, wherever it was. The books that I'd written, projects, doing stuff with kids. Those were the things that I took with me. And then, of course, there were other things like my mom had this huge elephant collection. And I was like, what should I do with that one? And there were all these shells and other stuff. It was back in the days when that was still allowed to collect. So, yeah, I was like, what am I going to do? And then, of course, there's this huge stack of glass negatives that my father still has from this area, which were, well, from the 40s and the 50s, probably. I mean, World War II ended in 45, and he still has pictures from what happened during World War II and also the parade. So when we were freed, which I'm still very grateful for, because otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you, right? So FOMO, fear of missing out, collecting things, and the emotional baggage that comes with it. Those are very important parts when it comes to clutter and clarity. Of course, there's the stuff when it comes to mindsets and your experiences. So when people don't hear you and they don't see you and they don't believe in you, it can take such a toll on you that you might end up really depressed. And the question, of course, is what happens? I mean, if you feel drained mentally, it can have a huge effect on you physically. Think, for instance, you don't want to get out of bed. Think about being tired all the time. But also when it comes to recovering from something like the cold or the flu, those things can have a huge impact when your energy level is going down. And as a result, it can result in clutter. Now, if you also are dealing with something physical, like I have been, when I wasn't able to stand on 2 feet anymore. So whenever I say to people I can't cook, it's not because I don't know how to cook. It's because I cannot lean against a stove. That is pretty dangerous. And well, my stability still isn't what it should be. And depending on what's happening, I can either stand for a longer period of time on 2 feet or not. So nowadays, it's my knees are acting up, which is partially also the result of what happened a decade ago, because the whole balance got disrupted. Now, sharing this with you, I also know what it means when you cannot do stuff physically, when you cannot clean up. It's not that you don't want to, but what if folding towels is already too much? Well, then how on earth are you going to sort out stuff? Well, one answer to it is you need to do stuff straight away so it doesn't become a pile at all. It's when you do stuff straight away that it's the least amount of effort. But of course, you need to have the energy to be able to do it straight away. And that's why speaking up and speaking out is so important, because then you can get support. But what if people don't believe you? And especially what if they downplay it? People are very good at downplaying stuff. So, yeah, when it comes to clutter, there's more to it than, well, you just, sort it out. It's the sorting out that is the hardest part to do. Now, getting back to the whole consistency and especially the mindset, one of the reasons that we used to collect stuff, especially my parents, was back in the days, I mean, they had gone through a hunger winter. Well, at least my dad had. My mom was in Indonesia, so there was no shortage of food and warmth over there. But there were other things going on. I can tell you that much. It was very dangerous to go out on the streets, being picked up and put in a camp. Yes, I'm sorry if this is a lot to take in. I'm not here for people who want the happy-go-lucky talk. I go into subjects really deeply, and I do so with my clients too. So if you ever need a coach who goes into things without beating around the bush, then you want to reach out to me. But getting back to what happened and what they experienced, they knew what it was like to have a shortage of stuff. So when my mom came with my dad to the Netherlands, so she was a Dutch citizen, and she had to make a couple of choices a few times around whether she would become a full Indonesian citizen or if she would remain Dutch, and then she had to leave Indonesia. And then shortly after, the same story happened in New Guinea. So when she came here, things were very different from nowadays. They had to pay for an apartment. It's not like you got stuff offered or anything. It was a loan and you had to pay back. That's the way it was. So we got raised. When you go to a certain country, that's when you learn the language of that country. You're not going to learn any language from Indonesia. So I don't know Bahasa Indonesia. I don't know Malaysian. So that is not from Malaysia, but they had their local language, which they called Malaysian. If I freely translate it into English, including all the habits they had. So of course there were some habits which I didn't realize I had until I got to meet my husband. And then we found out that it's kind of normal for us to eat with chopsticks, to use a fork and a spoon instead of fork and a knife. So the Dutch people over here, they're so used to cutting food, they use a fork and a knife. In Indonesia, you chop up everything prior to cooking it, and you make it so soft that you can just, go through it with a spoon. So no knives needed. So I'm absolutely horrible when it comes to cutting steaks, which also is the result of my wrists and my hands not being able to hold a knife properly. Because they're so flexible. So maybe that's part of the reason too. I don't know. But talking about it, that's when I realized we did have certain things in common. And of course, my looks gave it all away. Now, when we get back to the mindsets, remember, we are talking about clarity and consistency and speaking up. I learned from a young age that people just they didn't understand me. There were no good conversations because we're talking about kids. They weren't raised to have, no, let me rephrase that. Up till the age of 25, you have no clue what you're saying and doing. Well, you have some clue, but the brains aren't fully developed yet to actually have empathy for someone else. So they would ask questions and they would bully me, especially once you were bullied at home, they would bully at school. So basically, it was the result of them being insecure. And well, that led to me not speaking up at all. Now, if you take in consideration that I'm also I'm actually an introvert, believe it or not. So I can be an extrovert, but I'm also an introvert. And I'm also neurodivergent, which means I process information differently compared to other people. And because I can be a bit slower as the result of me making multiple equations of what someone actually wants from me, and hence not knowing which direction to take, I had to learn how to get stuff done. And well, I would sometimes have to see what the result of an assignment was first, because before I was actually able to do it. So that didn't work out really well when I went to the Academy of Arts. I can tell you that much. And actually, it also didn't work out really well when I had written exams. When I had oral exams, of course, that was very different, because then I could explain my reasoning and they could ask on, and then was, oh, you know all your stuff. It's just about the way that they asked things that I was like, okay, I get to understand this or I don't. Now, having said all of this, getting back to the consistency, when I was going through the planners, of course, I saw what I had written down when it came to my plans, when it came to the whole traveling, the trips that I want to do. And well, this year, like many years, ever since COVID, I wanted to do the Christmas trip again. And I was like, okay, what's keeping me from getting that Christmas trip out there? So I actually met up with someone who knows everything when it comes to tour buses and taking people to different locations. And one of the things that I've been dealing with, especially since Cheeky Joe and I were sharing hotel rooms, was I realized that I make some noise, and that's downplaying it in the night. When I fall asleep, I cannot help that. It's the way that the soft palate has been built. And I've been working on getting that changed. So the good news is I don't have any sleeping apnea when I use I think they call it recliner. It's the thing which is put over your teeth, and then my lower jaw gets pulled forward. So that makes a big difference. But as for the sounds, well, like I said, I cannot help it. It apparently makes a lot of difference when I'm laying down on my left or my right side, but I would like it to be changed. And well, it's one of the reasons that I was like, well, my idea was to travel in bunk beds. We would be able to drive in the night when we would be asleep. And then when we would arrive at new places, we could take a shower in a hotel, or, well, usually there are showers on the bus, but it's nice to have a shower at the hotel or the location wherever you go to. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not sure if this is going to work. So it was one of those things that I didn't realize that was going on until I actually was like, oh, but why is this not working out? Now, getting back to the Clarity Challenge, I started writing, and then I realized that I had to get into the basics. And the basics are basically figuring out what your subconscious mind has to tell you. The subconscious mind is where those mindsets are stored, especially those mindsets that we adopt as children, and which we should adapt later on in life. When we become adults and we get to understand that those mindsets are not working out for us. But in order to fix them, we need to know them. And it's the figuring out of the mindsets, and then knowing how to work on those mindsets, on how to change them, which usually blocks us from moving forward. So a number of things I describe in the first modules, well, actually in the introduction module, but in the first lessons, has to do with mindsets. It has to do with meditation. So that's a way to reach those mindsets and reprogram them. And it also has to do with intention and time. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes right now because I keep forgetting what the third thing is that I always write down. So I talk about mindsets, meditation, and what's the third thing? I'm going to take a little more time to look at it because I did write it down. Brainstorming, that's it, brainstorming. Now, why is brainstorming so important? Because by just writing things down randomly, you sort of start to overrule the conscious part of the mind. So at first, the chatterbox, of course, has its opinions. But then, because you're literally writing and are in a creative process, things can just come out, things you didn't expect. And especially when you share things with other people, you might be surprised about what you are writing down and coming up with. Now, brainstorming can give us answers and it can give us solutions. So the answers related to what it is you want to change or what's been bugging you, but also solutions as in what you can do. Now, when it comes to meditation, meditation can help you to, again, get the chatterbox to quiet down. How? Because you focus on your breathing, for one. If you do a guided meditation, you focus on the words of that person. Of course, it's so normal to wander around as a result of things that are said. So something is said that triggers something and you go somewhere else in your mind, and that's okay. And that's why it's good to listen multiple times to meditations. And the more you listen, especially to the same meditation, the more you get trained, the more and the quicker and the easier you get access to what's actually going on in the subconscious part of your mind. I do a lot of meditations. I try to do them weekly or 2 weekly. So officially, the training I gave, the group coaching training, is 2 times a month, like 2 weeks a month, every other week. In reality, I do it almost every week because I just love to do it. And depending on the time that we've got, I will do a meditation, which is somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. Occasionally, there are longer meditations, but it doesn't need to take a lot of time, and especially when people are used to the whole process of counting down from 10 to 1 and then going back up, getting re-energized, working on outcomes, and especially the writing afterwards, which is of course not included in the time linked to the meditation, then it gets easier to get there. Now, I know that depending on what you're used to and how your brain works, and of course how much of a perfectionist you are, or better said, how much doubts there are going on in your mind, you either can go there really quickly, like daydreamers, or you have trouble actually going there because you're like, but am I doing the right thing? Oh, I'm seeing something else, or I'm not seeing anything at all. And then the chatterbox gets the chance to take over, and we don't want that. So by doing it more often, and also me describing to people like, so I reach out to all the senses: smell, touch, taste, vision, hearing. Some say that actually sensitivity should be on there too. And while using those senses and appealing to them, some are better in one and some are better in other senses. So basically, recall memories by emotions, and those senses are part of it. So it has nothing to do with ratio. It actually has to do with all the other stuff surrounding that one memory. There are people you cannot get there. They don't see anything. They don't hear anything. It might be pitch black. It might be they see all these colors, but no specific images. That can happen. It's normal. So for those people, I've included the breathing in and then breathing out. And then I say release. Now, Brendon Burchard has this meditation where you just say release, release, release over and over again. I've changed that to breathing in, hold, and then release. So breathe out. And when you breathe out, you let go of everything else. People who do this consistently, they get better at it. So the doubts they have initially, they start to disappear, which is a good thing. That's what people need. But yes, again, it's about doing things consistently. Now, there's something I didn't address, but it's called intention. And intention is so important. Intention is what you want to use before you go to sleep, when you get up and you are starting the day. You want to use it when it comes to meditations, when it comes to writing things down. Could be writing a book. So that's why they say write down 3 words and then go for those 3 words. Don't edit, just go there. That's not to say that I don't edit, because I do, because it bugs me to see certain errors, but it doesn't interfere with my thought process. So that's a good thing. But if it does interfere with your thought process, then don't do it. And you can actually train yourself not to make all those changes, and you will do it afterwards anyway. So for me, writing blog posts is actually a very good way to write down my thoughts and to be brainstorming. And I actually wrote in a blog post that there are chances that you are going to revisit the blog post and you actually can see that it has changed, probably with headers and more aligned. So there's the difference between I just want to write down a story and then I want to write down something which also serves as a training. Okay, getting back to clarity, the clarity challenge, and consistency, and especially intention. When you send a message out there, and one of my coaches said this to me, it's like, well, how can the universe pick up on it when you don't even know what it is you want? Well, I'm going to reduce it to that specific part. What if you don't know what it is you want? What do you pay attention to? What are the actions you are taking? What stands out to you? If you don't know what it is you want, then how can opportunities arise? Because usually those opportunities are there, we just don't see it. It's just like when you're buying this new car, and then all of a sudden you see all these cars, and you're like, oh, there are actually many cars like these out there. So they say where attention goes, energy flows, and the same applies to intention. So intention, attention, and then energy, as in that's what you're focusing on. I talked a little bit about scamming. I recently, though they tried to scam me, they didn't succeed. But why were they in the, why could they do it? Because there was an interest on my part. A group I knew from when I was growing up was actually still out there, and I was kind of surprised. And when I was listening to the interviews, meditation came up again. And also consistency and being focused on what it is that you want to achieve. And it's when you divide your intention and your attention and all the energy that actually you're doing a little bit of everything and not enough when it comes to that number one thing. So when it comes to the clarity challenge, that's the one thing I want to change. I want to help you focus on that number one thing so you can actually get to achieve it. Now, for me, looking back, going through the notebooks and then realizing where I am now, it's actually kind of cool. Because, well, like I said, a year ago, I started posting every day on Instagram, which I'm still doing. At some point, I started doing my Friday night lives. And yes, I might not always do it Dutch time, nighttime, but I basically use the American time zones, which are 6 to 9 hours difference from where I am living. It's just easier with all the training and everything that's going on. And, well, I've been doing them weekly. And when I was in the US, that was actually when it got a little bit, well, it was a little bit hard to do, especially when I was staying at other people. And then, of course, when I was traveling myself. So I actually did some at the airport, and I did some which were chopped up, but it learned me about consistency, and it gave me clarity about how to do certain things. And all of this combined has led to my recent clarity challenge. So this is much more in depth than the previous clarity challenges were. So I am not doing this for free. I'll honestly say there's too much going on. And what I've noticed is people don't necessarily value what they can get for free. But when you do it, you get the chance to get a one-on-one conversation with me, and you also get a chance to join the group coaching training. So that's something you might want to consider. And if there's something that you need clarity about, then something that you wanted to do or get rid of, this is your time. This is your chance to go do it. Now you can say to me, but you were talking about December and how it started, December 1st. Sure, but this is not limited to December. It's more that during December, there are very specific days, and those days will get some extra attention. So the days itself, I will make sure to send an email out there, which is related to that day. But the 31 days, you can use them all year long. And I actually encourage you to go back to it and look through the things that you have written down and that I've given as assignments, so you can get a better understanding of what's going on and get clarity yourself. So if you want to sign up, you can still do so. Then find the link which is in the description, and just go there and go check it out. There are already people out there doing it, and they are actually very happy with this challenge. So go check it out. And otherwise, just rewatch this Friday Night Live and the previous ones, or go to Instagram, Lady Lexi Speaks Up. There is so much out there for you to explore and to get more clarity